They were involved with another person, not because you were not good enough, not because you were easy to replace, but because something inside them was not prepared to face what was genuine and real. And now, they carry a message they can no longer ignore or keep hidden inside their thoughts. What they want to say is not easy, and it is not comfortable because while they were physically present somewhere else, emotionally, a part of them never fully left you, and that truth has now become impossible for them to deny any longer in their daily life. Have you ever felt like a connection never truly ended, even after time passed? Even when everything on the surface said it did, something stayed unfinished and quietly present in the background of your mind all along without fading. That is where they have been living for some time now. Not in the past exactly, but in a space where truth was delayed and not erased completely from their heart. Because real connection does not disappear easily. It waits patiently and it remains, and eventually it asks to be seen clearly without any doubt at all. If you want the full truth about why they came back with this urgent message, hit like right now. They chose what felt safe instead of what felt true for them at that time in their journey. They moved toward what was familiar rather than what was quietly calling from deep inside them with real strength and depth. And they held on to what was easy to avoid instead of what could have actually changed them in a real and lasting way over the months. In doing this, they convinced themselves that comfort was the same as peace in their life. Even though something within them kept questioning that choice quietly, they stayed where things felt predictable and calm, where emotions did not demand too much from them each day, and where they could remain in control without much effort on their part. But deep down, there was always a quiet awareness that something more meaningful had been left behind in their past. Something that required more courage than they were ready to give at that time in their life journey. And once that understanding began to settle within them, it did not fade away softly or disappear over time at all. It stayed with them in the moments they could not run from or distract themselves from easily during quiet times. It showed up in quiet evenings, in the pauses between conversations, and in the space where their thoughts became louder than anything else around them in daily life. The feeling did not ask for attention, but it refused to be ignored by them completely. It remained present in a steady and quiet way, reminding them that something inside had been left unresolved for too long now. No matter how much they tried to move forward with their days, this awareness stayed behind their actions, quietly shaping how they felt about everything in their life. In the silence between conversations and in the repetition of days that slowly started to blend into one another, they began to notice how little life was truly asking from them at that point in time. Everything felt manageable, but also limited, as if growth had been replaced with routine over time without much change. They started to see how much of their real self they had been holding back just to keep things simple and easy to handle without challenges coming up. They avoided deeper questions, avoided stronger emotions, and avoided situations that might challenge who they were deep inside their heart. Over time, this created a sense of distance within themselves, a feeling that they were present in their own life, but not fully engaged with it on a real level. And that quiet distance slowly became impossible to ignore any longer as days passed. What they had with the other person may have appeared stable on the surface, but it did not carry the same depth, meaning, or emotional weight as before in their experience. What they shared with you had something different, something that reached deeper and stayed longer in their heart over the years. And things that are truly meaningful do not disappear just because someone walks away from them for a while in life. They remain present in the background of the mind, waiting quietly to be acknowledged without pressure from anyone. Comment, still connected, if you've ever felt the connection never truly ended. They do not demand attention, but they do not fade either over the passing days and weeks. Over time, these feelings begin to rise again, not in dramatic ways, but in subtle and persistent reminders that something important had once existed between you two. At some point, they stopped pretending to themselves completely. Not in one sudden realization, and not through a dramatic moment of clarity, but slowly and honestly in a way that felt both uncomfortable and real at the same time. They admitted that they were never fully alive in the place they chose to stay in during that period of their life. Something important had always been missing, even if they tried not to see it clearly before this moment. They recognized that no matter how much they tried to convince themselves they had moved forward, a part of them was still emotionally unfinished with you in many ways. This awareness did not come with ease at all in their process. It came with a quiet honesty that forced them to look at their own decisions without excuses or hiding from the truth. If you've ever felt a connection never truly ended, even when they were with someone else, they came to understand that they never truly gave that connection a fair chance in the past, not because it lacked meaning or value in their eyes, but because it required courage from them to face fully. Type yes if you want me to reveal the real reason they couldn't fully leave you. It required a level of openness they were not prepared for at the time in their journey through life. The kind of courage that asks a person to show up without protection, to face the possibility of rejection, to allow themselves to feel deeply without knowing the outcome ahead of time. It meant risking emotional pain, risking change, and risking becoming someone different because of what they felt inside their heart strongly. Instead of stepping into that space, they stepped away from it, choosing safety over growth at that moment in their path. Even though a part of them knew what they were leaving behind, now that awareness carries a message they could not express before this time. It is not perfect in every word. It is not carefully shaped, and it is not asking for sympathy from anyone around them at all. It simply exists as a quiet and steady truth within them that they cannot ignore any longer each day. They understand now, and they see what you represented in their life with new eyes after reflection. They recognize that what they were avoiding was never truly you, but the parts of themselves they were not ready to face honestly before now. And that realization shifts something deep inside them in a lasting manner over time. It changes how they see their past, their choices, and what truly mattered in your connection. Once they clearly see their own avoidance, they cannot unsee it. They can no longer pretend it did not matter, whether they reach out or remain silent. The illusion they lived in has fallen away, bringing both discomfort and clarity. They are left facing the emotional weight of everything they once avoided. None of this was ever a reflection of your worth or value. It was always about their emotional readiness and their ability to face what they truly felt. You were not replaced by someone better. They simply lacked the capacity to meet you with full presence. Now they live with the results of their own choices, carrying the weight of what they delayed, avoided, and left unresolved. That is the real impact they face every day. Whether they ever speak about it or not, the truth has settled deeply within them. Real connections leave marks that cannot be erased by distraction, convenience, or avoidance. They now see how their silence, inconsistency, and fear affected someone who deserved honesty, presence, and real effort. That clarity is heavy, undeniable, and cannot be softened with excuses. Comment, unresolved. If this message is hitting you deep about someone who was with another person, it does not rush or fade away with time. Instead, it stays quietly within them, reminding them of every moment they chose distance over truth and hesitation over honesty. This is not a plea for reconciliation or another chance. It is a quiet admission that comes only through reflection and personal growth. They now recognize the courage it took for you to be emotionally open and to refuse anything less than honesty. With that recognition comes both respect and regret. They respect your honesty and strength and regret that they were not brave enough to meet you at that same level when it mattered most. That regret is not loud or dramatic. It lives quietly beneath the surface. It returns in late-night thoughts, silent moments, and memories they cannot fully leave behind. It reminds them of the chances they missed, the honesty they avoided, and the connection they failed to protect. What they want you to understand is that this is not simply about missing comfort or familiarity. It is about finally realizing what a real connection feels like and knowing that something genuine cannot be replaced. A part of them always remained aware of you, even when they stayed silent. That awareness only grew stronger until it became a truth they could no longer deny. They are not asking for forgiveness, and they are not trying to force any decision from you right now. They are simply offering the truth of their realization, something they were not able to express before this point clearly. This is their truth, presented in a quiet and honest way, without performance or exaggeration of any sort in words. It comes from someone who finally sees what was in front of them all along and now carries that understanding with full responsibility each day. There is no attempt to rewrite the past or make it seem different from what it was in reality. Share this with someone who is still waiting for clarity from a person who chose safety over truth in their journey. There is only an effort to acknowledge what was real and what it truly meant to them deeply. The message is not about changing what has already happened in the past completely. It is about fully accepting it without running away from the emotions involved. They are no longer running away from the emotions they once avoided for so long in their path. They are no longer dividing their attention or hiding behind silence and distraction like before in daily life. They have faced their hesitation, their emotional distance, and their fear of being vulnerable with themselves honestly. And through that process, they have come to realize something important and clear in their mind now. The person they hesitated to fully show up for was always you, without question, in their heart. And that truth now carries a strong emotional weight that cannot be ignored any longer by them at all. That realization has reshaped how they understand connection, honesty, and emotional presence in their life moving ahead. They are different now in awareness after this growth. Even if the past cannot be changed at all in any way, even if they never act on what they feel inside, the understanding they carry will not disappear from them. It remains because they now see you clearly, not as an option, not as something replaceable, but as a meaningful connection they were not ready for at the time. That truth stays with them, and it shapes their thoughts and follows them into future experiences where real emotional depth appears again in life. What comes next is no longer guided by confusion or uncertainty for them in their path. It becomes about conscious choice, your clarity, and your ability to stay grounded in your own truth and self-respect moving forward each day. Take a moment and sit with this fully in your heart. Allow yourself to feel the weight of what has passed and what may still be possible ahead in your journey. Trust your instincts, your inner voice, and the strength you have developed over time through your own experiences in life. You already know what feels right for you deep inside your heart. You already understand what you deserve fully. And now, with full awareness of both their growth and your own, the next step can be taken with clarity, calm, confidence, and steady self-respect always. On the surface, someone may appear fully committed elsewhere or focused in another direction in life completely at times. But emotionally and psychologically, a part of them can still remain connected to something they never fully understood or resolved before this point. This is not about betrayal in a simple way, but about the deeper and more complex nature of human attachment, fear, and personal growth that develops slowly over time naturally. What makes this situation powerful is the role that fear plays in shaping decisions that people often do not fully understand while making them at the moment in their lives. Fear quietly influences choices more than most people are aware of in their daily paths. Fear of closeness, fear of being vulnerable, fear of losing control, and even fear of facing one's own emotional truth can lead someone to divide their attention or avoid what they truly feel inside strongly. In those moments, they may move toward other connections, not because of real love, but because of comfort, distraction, or the need to avoid deeper feelings completely at that time. At the same time, the person they were deeply connected to remains present in their thoughts quietly. Even if they do not speak about it openly with others around them, that presence continues through memories, quiet comparisons, and unspoken thoughts that stay with them each day. If you felt this in your heart, comment "real" below. It shapes their emotional world in ways that are not always visible from the outside, but are strongly felt within their heart over the months. Regret becomes a meaningful part of this process when someone avoids emotional truth or delays a real connection in life. They eventually begin to feel the result of that avoidance clearly. This realization often arrives quietly during reflection in moments of stillness or when there are no distractions left to escape from their own thoughts. It is not about simply missing someone on a surface level alone in their mind. It is about clearly seeing the choices that were made along the way, the fear that guided those choices, and the missed chance to fully value a real emotional connection that existed between you. That understanding does not come quickly or easily for them during the process. It builds over time, becoming stronger with each moment of honesty they allow in their reflection. And once it is fully seen, it stays shaping how they move forward and how they understand what truly matters in their life going ahead each day. This kind of regret is powerful because it brings a person face to face with accountability, humility, and real inner growth that lasts through the years. It does not allow easy escape or quick distraction from the truth they now face. Instead, it asks them to look directly at their own choices and the impact those choices created on others in the past. At the same time, growth is never one-sided or limited to one person alone in such journeys. In this path, while one individual is learning to face fear, accept responsibility, and understand emotional truth more clearly, the other person is also changing in their own way with strength and clarity. They are learning to set stronger boundaries to protect their peace and to value their self-respect more deeply than before, even when it requires distance for a time in life. This creates a situation where both individuals continue to evolve, often at different speeds, but still moving in similar directions internally over the months ahead. When clarity finally arrives for one person, the other may already have developed a deeper sense of strength, awareness, and emotional understanding in their path. Type growth. If you're choosing your peace and self-respect after this shift ensures that any future interaction, if it ever takes place, is no longer based on confusion, emotional need, or uncertainty at all in the connection. Instead, it becomes rooted in conscious choice, self-awareness, and emotional maturity that feels right and balanced. The dynamic changes because both individuals are no longer standing in the same place they once were, even if the memory of that connection still exists within them quietly. Even when someone appears to move forward on the surface with their life, parts of their emotional world can remain connected to what was never fully understood or resolved completely. That original connection continues to influence how they see happiness, meaning, and emotional fulfillment in their life every day, without fail. This is why their external behavior can sometimes feel disconnected from their internal reality in quiet ways over time. There is often a quiet contrast between what they show to others and what they actually feel inside their heart during moments alone. This contrast is not always intentional, but it becomes more noticeable over time as awareness begins to grow and questions begin to surface within them naturally each day. At the same time, the person who once asked for honesty and emotional presence is also growing and changing with time steadily. They are no longer standing still in their journey. They are becoming more grounded, self-aware, and confident in their own value. They are learning to trust their instincts and move forward with greater clarity. If a reconnection ever happens, it will come from strength, balance, and understanding, not emotional dependence or confusion. This growth helps prevent the same patterns that once created distance between you. Another truth is that emotional presence goes far beyond physical closeness. Someone may be with another person, yet part of them can remain connected to an unresolved bond. That quiet connection appears in thoughts, memories, and comparisons they cannot fully control. Through reflection, they have faced their fear, hesitation, and the choices they made. That honesty has completely changed how they now see the past and the path ahead. At the same time, you have grown into someone who no longer depends on mixed signals to know your worth. You have learned to protect your peace, trust your instincts, and stand firmly in your self-respect without needing validation. This is no longer just a story about return or loss, but about understanding what was real and what it truly required from both sides. Comment: which part touched you the most? The regret, the clarity, or the growth? You represented something genuine, something meaningful, and something that asked for courage to hold on to strongly. That truth has now been recognized, even if it came later than expected by them in their path. But your journey does not pause for someone else's realization at any time in life. You continue forward with clarity, strength, and a deeper understanding of what you deserve and what you will no longer accept in your life ahead. So what remains is simple and clear for you to follow. Stay grounded in your truth and trust the growth you have gone through with patience each step. Let your decisions come from clarity, not from old emotions or uncertainty that may linger in quiet moments. What is meant to align with you will meet you with the same honesty, presence, and effort that you have always carried inside your heart. And anything that cannot meet you there will naturally fall away without force or struggle. Like, comment, urgent message if this woke up old feelings, and subscribe for more Carl Jung-style emotional truths.